I need to ask you a question. Is it too early to consider as one of the best TV shows of our generation? Season 3 just wrapped up, but I've been asking myself this question from the second episode, to be honest, and I needed to ask you too in order to figure out if I'm just high off recency bias or we are really witnessing something truly special unfolding in front of our eyes. I still remember season 1 of Invincible and the huge cultural impact that it had. Oh yeah, spoiler warning for the first 2 seasons, I guess. I won't touch the new one for now. Think Mark Think is now basically cemented into pop culture, making J.K. Simmons probably one of the most quotable people to have ever lived.
Get the fuck out of my sight before I demolish you.
Moreover, Omni-Man also cemented himself as one of, if not the best twist villains ever, and that happened in the first episode of the show. Although in retrospective season 1 might be the weakest of the bunch, except when it comes to the animation, but we'll get to that, I don't think you can ask for a greater season to set up the story of Invincible. Hell, I don't think you can ask for a greater season to make people care about Invincible in the first place. Look, I'm a nerd through and through, but ironically, I am not a comic book guy. I used to read them when I was a kid, but I think I changed course somewhere because I haven't really touched them since. I occasionally read manga, but I haven't gone back to comic books yet.
You better not be jacking off to the Japanese comics, I swear to God.
That being said, before the show, I didn't know anything about Invincible, but again, that might have been a me problem. But, in my defense, I did know about The Walking Dead way before the show, so maybe Invincible was not that popular. Cope. What I'm trying to say is that Robert Kirkman repeated history and catapulted Invincible in the mainstream the same way he did it to The Walking Dead. At this point, this guy is the Steven Spielberg of our generation when it comes to having not one, but 2 cultural defining franchises under his belt. I don't know if I'm glazing Kirkman too much for comparing him to Spielberg, but I am as big of a The Walking Dead fan as a Jurassic Park fan, and now as big of an Invincible fan as an Indiana Jones fan. That clicked with me at the end of season 2 with the Armstrong fight. I think that episode not only saved the show from going down the wrong path, and I'm talking about the stupid decision to split the season in half, which killed the hype, but pushed the entire show to the next level after the entire season gradually moved the bar up. Just look at how much love and care and attention the side characters received. During season 2, Debbie skyrocketed her way into my top favorite characters and Rexplode became the absolute GOAT. Talk about someone who is the definition of a redemption arc, going from the most annoying cunt in the show to the most lovable character. Moreover, another highlight of the season was ironically another redemption arc, which was the most shocking, and I'm talking about Omni-Man. After watching season 1, I thought for sure that Invincible and Omni-Man are now set in stone as mortal enemies, and the only possible ending for these two is Mark killing his dad. Well, it looks like I was wrong, don't spoil the comics, because Nolan finally discovered how precious life is having another kid with a fucking end. So he teams up with Mark to retaliate against the Viltrum Empire. And we also get Oliver, who is a big part of season 3. This entire plotline subverted my expectations and made me give more importance to the narrative rather than the fights. But speaking of season 3, let's finally talk about it because it is the reason I decided to make this video. But look at me going on a rant about the previous seasons. I mean, they were great, but boy, if this season ain't the best by a long shot. I don't even know where to start. I also don't even know how to hype this season without spoiling anything, but I'm going to give it a try and I will warn you if it comes to that. Okay, the best part about this season is that it continues the trend from the previous one to develop the side characters with the proper respect that they deserve. This season, it's all about Cecil when it comes to great moral dilemmas and intriguing backstories. Episode 2 taps into the very core of his character and it's probably one of the best episodes of the season. We see Cecil start at the GDA and as we follow him we understand how he became the leader that he is today. You can be the good guy or the guy that saves the world, you can't be both. It's such a powerful quote that defines Cecil as a character, and through this lens, we also see a civil war brewing between him and Mark, as both of their moralities and principles are questioned when faced with the task of protecting the world. This is such a well-developed conflict that, although you can sum it up as Cecil is right because Mark is a hypocrite and also a kid, the entire thing has many layers and because of that you can create a debate out of it. I was Team Mark at the beginning, not gonna lie, but I switched up by the end. You know who else is Team Mark now? Eve, baby. Look, I have to come clean with something and admit that I am not an Amber hater. I understand why she would be hated so much, because she can seem very annoying by making world-threatening problems about herself, but I was able to empathize with her, so I didn't get aboard the Amber hate train. That being said, I was steaming from the start, baby. Fuck Amber, she was one of the worst parts of the previous seasons. We finally got Mark and Eve together, and the romance aspect of the show has never been better. The worst part about this is that they wasted Philip on Amber, but hey, at least we got Joji this season. Fucking Pink Guy is part of Invincible. Can you believe the timeline we're in? The chemistry between Mark and Eve is there, and every interaction between them shows how both of them grew not only as superheroes but as people too. They can fucking communicate, especially when they are in the same position, and it's such a good change of pace from Mark's relationship with Amber. You know what else is a good change of pace? The actual pacing. This season is thankfully not split in two, as the showrunners learn from the mistakes, but also everything keeps the narrative running. Even quote-unquote filler episodes highlight other side characters from the past and develop their role in the world of Invincible. The intro in episode 3 is probably one of the best moments in the entire show, and it is centered around two newly introduced minor characters. There is no dialogue, just pure storytelling and emotion. Storytelling is practically the defining factor of this season, as every character's plotline gets the proper attention. Ray and Rex, Rudy and Monster Girl, Debbie, her new boyfriend, and Oliver, especially Oliver. Yeah, I told you that Oliver plays a big part in this season, as he is the bridge that connects Nolan with his abandoned family. Oliver does not know Omni-Man as the monster that he was in season 1, therefore his plotline revolves around his perception of him and how it dictates his approach at superheroing. Nolan's brutality appears to be hereditary, and Mark not only has to deal with his own, as he still wrestles with the guilt of killing Armstrong, but he also has the responsibility of coaching Oliver into becoming a proper hero that does not follow in his father's footsteps. That arc also debates the possibility of redemption when it comes to Omni-Man, since he switched sides, but his past evil deeds may be unforgivable. Yeah, speaking of Omni-Man, that is one weak aspect when it comes to season 3. He, alongside Alan the Alien, have a small amount of screen time, which is a shame because their side adventure is not really a side quest, as it showcases crucial information revolving the main narrative, but it is treated like one and pushed to the side. After watching season 1, I fully expected to not see Omni-Man for the next 2 or 3 seasons until one big reveal, but when he showed up in season 2, I was like, damn, that's a pleasant surprise, I fuck with this. So I proceeded to ignore my original expectations, leading to me getting disappointed in the present, as he doesn't have that big of a presence as he did in the previous season. But hey, at least every other character gets proper screen time and development. Another negative aspect of the season that is more major and has also become the main topic of debate when discussing Invincible is obviously the animation. Look, we can all agree that the animation has gotten noticeably worse than the first season, which is a shame because you never want something to devolve instead of getting better. On the other hand, the story has gotten noticeably even better, and also new seasons drop even more constantly now. This contrast has sparked a huge debate online, as some people try to defend the lesser quality of the animation, highlighting how good the story is, and some people think that there is no excuse for one of, if not the most popular animated running show, to not focus on the literal animation, especially when they're backed by fucking Amazon. I truly get both sides, and although I usually hate centrists, I cannot help but position myself somewhere in the middle. I truly think the story of season 3 is fucking amazing and way better than previous seasons, and I love the fact that we didn't have to wait a lot for this one. That being said, I actually wouldn't mind waiting just a bit more for the animation to be noticeably improved. I'll be honest, I don't watch Invincible for the animation, I care about the characters and the story, but I cannot ignore the fact that shows like X-Men 97 or Arcane are so much more elevated by their animation despite also having amazing stories. Therefore, I wouldn't mind to live in a world where Invincible prioritizes its animation and cements itself at the top of the food chain when it comes to animated shows. because that is the only thing that will push it to the very top, considering how it got everything else right, especially in the last 2 episodes. Look, I'm sorry, but considering the fact that I'm also at the end of the video, I have to dip a lot in spoilers to do this season justice. So consider this a big spoiler warning for the last episodes of the season, skip to this part if you haven't watched it, and come back later to discuss. So episode 6 surprisingly delivered another great villain after Machine Head stole the show in the previous one.
Hawk 2.
Spit on that thing, you get me?
As Jesse Pinkman tries to get revenge on Mr. Invincible for killing his family.
You can't keep getting away with it! He can't keep getting away with it!
You cannot tell me they didn't purposely design Powerplex's wife as Jane. It's uncanny. Somehow episode 7 goes even harder in the villain department, and let me tell you, if your favorite character is Mark, you are in for a treat, because you get a whole bunch of them and they are all evil. This episode is the culmination of every plotline and conflict of this season, besides the Omni-Man and Alan one. Mark and Cecil have to sort out their differences because at the end of the day they are on the same side trying to save the world. Oliver gets the chance to be the hero he trained to be. Mark's sense of benevolence is tested when Eve gets badly hurt and he has to choose between fighting the good fight and protecting the ones he loves. The context is also psychologically damaging for Mark, as fighting evil versions of himself, causing major destruction in the process, basically reinforces Powerplex's point that Invincible is responsible for all the damage that's been done. The only relief that Mark gets throughout this whole episode is when he discovers that Armstrong is actually alive and behind this multidimensional attack, so the guilt of killing him disappears, only to be immediately replaced by the guilt of not actually killing him, as a fuck ton of people die because of him. Therefore, you can see why I'm hyping up the story, as every exterior or interior conflict that Mark has been dealing with gets a resolution. But Mark is not the MVP of this episode, because as I've previously mentioned, Rexplode is the GOAT and he sacrifices himself to save his friends. He was so close to have the happy ending with Ray, but what started as the most selfish character had the most selfless end. When he got shot in the head and survived last season, I thought he couldn't get any more badass, but I was wrong. Also, how the fuck are they gonna kill off Rex but Immortal and Duplicate get a happy ending? This motherfucker got decapitated 4 times in 3 seasons, come on man. Episode 7 is the most epic of the season, and it's probably tied with episode 2 for me as the best. That's what I would have said if the season ended there. That being said, episode 8 did what Speed Racer did when forced to lose in order to save the life of a sick girl, and stepped on the gas pedal when it comes to villains. Because we got motherfucking Conquest. This dude is the definition of intimidation just through his design alone, and in case that wasn't enough, the showrunners went overkill and had Jeffrey Dean Morgan voice him. You know what that means? The stars aligned and we got Negan versus Glenn round 2 in another show created by Robert Kirkman. The choice of casting Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Conquest is probably one of the best casting decisions ever, because he channels the sadistic nature of Negan and somehow goes to levels that I didn't even know he could reach. Conquest is a fucking monster, as he just toys with Mark and taunts him the entire time like he's playing with his food. Their entire fight also takes a lot of inspiration from the original confrontation between Mark and Omni-Man as more innocent bystanders bite the dust. The tension is through the roof this episode because, spoilers for The Walking Dead, big spoilers, you feel like Glenn is going to get his brains bashed in all over again. But the complete opposite happens in a moment I can only describe as absolute cinema, when Invincible, having both hands broken, bashes Conquest's head in with his own fucking head. This will probably go down as one of the greatest moments in animation, and this episode as one of the best in TV. You couldn't have asked for a more perfect conclusion for what is essentially a perfect season, except the animation. But the budget for it basically went into the final confrontation, so it makes up for it in my opinion. I think I say this for most shit I enjoy, but with Invincible I cannot stress the anticipation for the next season enough. I need it and I need it now. But take your time, because I enjoy consuming Peak and that takes time. You can also save the animation in the process. At this rate, as the title states, I think Invincible is on track to be the greatest show of our generation. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. Do you agree with this statement? What do you think about the new season? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please feel free to let me know in the comments. This show made my heart rate go through the roof, and I have to go back to Severance now, so I don't think I will last much longer. But I hope you do last, and I hope I will see you in the next video, that is about Severance. As always, your presence has been priceless. Take care.